This is the Rizal Trial and Execution. This is your anchor, Christina Rixie Baller, bringing you some news with no bias.
Live from the large city of Eastern Visayas Island, this is Rizal Trial and Execution. News with no exemption, and this is Johnny Balais. Here are today's headlines. Rizal on reform and revolution veneration without understanding. Rizal and the justice system. Rizal's issue a manifesto to proclaim his innocence. Rizal burial and Rizal bloom and truth.
The last day of Rizal's is a timeline of his last day and the last day, Rizal's execution and revolution. Rizal lived a simple life during his banishment in the Pitan. Rizal had built an informal school where he taught several children. He also had patients who went looking for him to get healed. He is also fond of doing agricultural pursuits. For further detail, we have our reporter, Miss Maria Blanca Malibago for Rizal in the Pitan.
Introducing a Philippine biographical film of 4 years exile in the Pitan, a Filipino propagandist ng Patriot, Jose Rizal. This movie was titled Rizal to the Pitan, and it was directed by Ticoy Aguilas, starring Albert Martinez as Rizal and Amanda Page as Josephine Bracken. The movie released 1997, containing 3 languages, Filipino, Spanish, and English. The movie Rizal to the Pitan is a story of our beloved national hero who was exiled in the Pitan 1892, and he began adapting to his new home. He helped the local residents by offering free education to all children and rendering his service as a doctor, where he met his fiancée, Josephine Bracken. Later on, they decided to marry but refused the church wedding on political grounds. The couple settled for a common law marriage despite of initial opposition from Rizal's family. The film closes with Rizal's living in the Pitan as the local mourn him. An epilogue explains Rizal's intent to work in Cuba and subsequent arrest, his execution, and his birthing to the Philippine Revolution. You can watch this movie Rizal sa the Pitan on YouTube. This is Maria Bianca Malibago for Rizal in the Pitan.
Thank you, Maria Bianca Malibago. Moving on to Rizal and reform and revolution, he refugiated the revolution because he thought that reforms to be successful should come from the above. It could be understandable that the hero thought of such as because it was the belief of a ruling class to which Rizal belonged. For further details, Maria Manuel Manog, can you tell us more about it?
Mula 1,800 at 76 hanggang 1,901, nangyari ang revolusyong nakapagbago ng Pilipinas. Rizal's life was already explored by historians and biographers, yet his direct involvement in the Philippine Revolution remains to be sensitive and unfamiliar topic. In 1969, a lecture titled Veneration Without Understanding by Professor Renato Constantino tried to disclose the real Rizal and the truth of his heroism, forwarding the notion that Rizal was not a leader of the Philippine Revolution, but a leading opponent of it. News on Veneration Without Understanding will be continued on the next report. In December 15, 1896, the manifesto written by Rizal addressed to the Filipinos, declaring that when he knew the idea of the revolution, he opposed it, and stated his willingness to offer anything he could to stifle the revolution, as he thought that it was ridiculous and hated its alleged criminal records. It is possible that Rizal's disapproval was due to his belief that violence shall not prevail. Rizal's hesitation against revolution, supported by Dr. Pio Valenzuela's account of the revolution, after sent by Andres Bonifacio to the Pitan to seek for Rizal's opinion and approval in setting up an armed rebellion against the Spanish administration. September 1896, Valenzuela, in front of the military court, testified that Rizal's persistent disagreement with the idea of premature armed rebellion and used bad language about it. October 1896, Ang parehong payag ay nakuha muli sa kanya, ngunit ipinalit niya ito at ginawang si Bonifacio at hindi si Rizal ang nagsabi ng masasamang salita. Pagkatapos ng 2 dekada, Valenzuela reversed the story by stating that Rizal was not actually against the idea of revolution, but advised the Katipuneros to wait for the right moment, secure weapons, and get the support of the rich and scholarly class. Recounted that his 1896 statements were enhanced due to pressure and torture, made to appear that in his desire not to involve or save Rizal, testified that the latter was opposed to the rebellion. This puts historians in confusion, making Rizal's stand over the Philippine Revolution controversial and debatable. Conclusion: Dr. Jose Rizal expressing his disapproval of the idea of revolution and believes reforms to be fruitful when it comes from above. It is B. Maria Manuela Manog, Rizal on Reforms and Revolution.
Thank you, Maria Manuela Manag. The article Veneration Without Understanding by Renato Constantino is all about thoughts and arguments about Rizal's status as the national hero of the Filipino people. Here are our report for Christine Lagunsad for the further information. Christine Lagunsad, why does Renato Constantino write the article Veneration Without Understanding?
In other countries, to be a national hero, it should be a leader of a revolution. However, in Philippines, it is not. People grow up knowing that Rizal is a writer, role model, and a national hero. But in this article shows the deeper story about Rizal and the revolutionaries. The article Veneration Without Understanding by Renato Constantino is all about doubts and arguments about Rizal's status as the national hero of the Filipino people. It depicts how shallow the knowledge of the Filipinos is about Rizal and nationalism. In other countries, to be a national hero, you should be a leader of a revolution. But it was different with the Philippines, Rizal being the national hero, repudiated the revolution, and was completely against it. This was never mentioned in storybooks, that's why people grew up knowing Rizal as a writer, a role model, and a national hero. The people saw him as someone who would sacrifice everything for the country's freedom. They were blinded by the teachings of Rizal, virtuous characteristics from elementary up to secondary that we tend to not see the deeper story behind Rizal and the revolutionaries. This is Christine Bilagunsad, Veneration Without Understanding.
We're gonna take a closer look on the more human side of our national hero. Being the national hero of the Philippines, Jose Rizal was also known through time as the first Filipino, pride of the Malayan race, the greatest Malayan among others. Napag-aralan na natin ang linya sa pamilya at mga panahon na nag-aaral si Rizal sa Laguna hanggang sa Manila at nagpatuloy ng medisina sa Espanya. Sa taong 1896 to 1901, nakikita ng mga historians ang revolusyon ng Pilipinas bilang panahon ng mga Pilipinong nagkaisa, nagsama-sama at nagkaroon ng lakas ng loob para ipaglaban ang ating kalayaan. Historians do not deny that Rizal played a major part in the country's struggle for reforms and independence. His writings, particularly the No Limitangere and the El Filibusterismo, were viewed as the guidance force for other patriots to rally behind the country's cause. But some of them do not credit the hero with the leadership of the revolution, even playing down his actual role in the fight for freedom. Isa sa mga historians na ito ay si Renato Constantino. Ayon sa kanyang isinulat na Veneration Without Understanding, Rizal is not a leader but a leading opponent of the revolution. Dahil para daw kay Rizal, ang revolution ay pagdanak ng dugo ng maraming mga Pilipino. At isa ito sa mga paraan na kanyang kinaayawan. Noong nalaman ni Rizal ang plano tungkol sa pagkakaroon ng revolusyon, agad siyang umalma tungkol dito at gagawin ang lahat para lamang mapigilan ito. Rizal thought of revolution as absurd and abhorred its alleged criminal methods. Ayon kay Constantino, kaya't kanyang isinalaysay ang pagiging salungat ni Rizal sa revolusyon ay dahil sa manifesto ni Rizal noong December 15, 1896. Sa manifestong ito, Rizal declared the necessity of education in the achievement of liberties. Most important, he believed that reforms to be fruitful must come from above and that those that come from below are shaky, irregular, and insecure. Sa above na kanyang isinalaysay, kanyang ibig sabihin dito ay ang mga edukadong mga Pilipino at sa kanyang sinalaysay na below ay ang masa. Kaya't kanyang idineklara na ang pagkamit ng kalayaan ay dapat nanggagaling sa taas, which is the above, mga edukadong Pilipino, at hindi dapat nanggagaling sa baba, which means the below, ang masa. Nagkaroon ng hindi pagkakaintindihan sa ideya ni Rizal tungkol sa revolusyon dahil sa mga sinalaysay ni Dr. Pio Valenzuela tungkol sa kanyang misyon na pagpunta kay Rizal sa Dapitan upang hingi ng opinyon at pagsang-ayon ng ating bayani sa pagkakaroon ng sandatahang rebelyon laban sa administrasyon ng Espanyol. Ang misyon na pagpunta ni Pio Valenzuela sa Dapitan ay nanggaling kay Andres Bonifacio. Ito ang mga panahon na nagkaroon ng problema si Rizal sa mga Espanyol dahil sa pagsulat niya ng kanyang dalawang nobela. In September 1896, Valenzuela testified before a military court that Rizal was resolutely opposed to the idea of a premature armed rebellion and disparaged it. In October 1896, Valenzuela again made the same account but changed the portion about foul language, saying it was Bonifacio, not Rizal, who used foul words. And yet, 2 decades later, Valenzuela reversed his story again by saying that Rizal was not actually against the revolution, but merely advised the Katipuneros, members of the revolutionary movement called Katipunan, to wait for the right time, secure the needed weapons, and get the support of the rich and scholarly class. Valenzuela recounted that his 1896 statements were embellished due to juries and torture, and that in his desire not to implicate or to save Rizal, testified that the latter was opposed to revolution. Sa mga salaysay ni Valenzuela na hindi nagkakatugma-tugma sa iisang ideya ay naging sanhi ng pagkalito ng mga historians kung ano nga ba talaga ang ideya ni Rizal patungkol sa revolusyon, making Rizal both a hero and an anti-hero. Furthermore, in Constantino lecture, he pointed out that even without Rizal, the nationalistic movement would still advance with another leader because it was not Rizal who shaped the turn of events but otherwise. The historical forces, untied by social developments, may have impelled and motivated Rizal to rise up and articulate the people's sentiments through his writings. But the revolution ensued although Rizal disagreed with it. Finally, Constantino argued that to better understand the hero, we should also take note of his weaknesses and profit from them. Rizal's weakness, in Constantino's view, lay in his failure to fully understand his people. He failed to empathize with the true sentiments of the people in launching the armed rebellion that made him repudiate it. Perhaps due to his belief that violence should not prevail and that reforms must come from above. Following this thought, Rizal in a way unconsciously underestimated the capacity of those from below to compel changes and reforms. Moreover, in the study of Rizal, certain inconsistencies have been brought forth. One is about the hero's famed quality of thrift. After he published Noli Me Tangere, Rizal traveled to various places in Europe with his friends Maximo Viola. Historical accounts talk of the hero allotting ample amount of money for a lottery tickets, for expensive studio photographs. That is why he is very much documented, for theaters, balls, and most of all, books. The book collection of Rizal perhaps cost a fortune because Josephine Bracken once sued the Rizal family in an attempt to get the collection, claiming she had rights over her husband's estate. Then there was the matter of his portrayal as an ever-faithful, ever-loyal, and romantic lover. It is a general impression that he was, in reality, the person behind the character of Crisostomo Ibarra in his two novels. The story goes that because of his everlasting love for Maria Clara, Ibarra disguised himself so he could get inside the convent which she had entered when she he was told that Ibarra had died. In real life, it was said that the woman Rizal almost married was Leonor Rivera, his fiancée with whom he corresponded for 6 years while he was abroad. Unfortunately, the marriage did not push through due to circumstances beyond the lover's control. In his book, The First Filipino, Professor Leon Maria Guerrero discussed the presence of the other Leonor in the confidential letters between Rizal and a friend named Jose M. Cecilio. The letters revealed that Rizal was engaged to 2 women, both named Leonor. Meanwhile, Professor Ambet Ocampo, in his book Rizal Without the Overcoat, wrote that in 1884, a classmate of Rizal named Cefereno de Leon tried to pursue Leonor Rivera but held off on learning that she was the hero's fiancée. Later, De Leon met and fancied a lady named Leonor Valenzuela, who told him, however, that she was already engaged to Rizal. In the Rizal Cecilio correspondence, Rivera was always referred to as the little landlady since her father, Don Antonio Rivera, managed a boarding house in Intramuros. Valenzuela, on the other hand, was labeled Winsome Orang. Such anecdotes prove that Rizal, just like Ibarra, was no doubt a romantic, but with regard to faithfulness. At mayroon pang kinestyon ang kakayahan ni Rizal sa kanyang pagiging doktor. During his first homecoming, Rizal built a clinic in Calamba, where he treated his townmates. It was also common knowledge that he treated the failing eyesight of his mother upon his return. In his short stint in Hong Kong, he was also able to create a good reputation as an ophthalmologist that allowed him to establish a satisfactory clientele. When he was exiled in Dapitan in 1892, Rizal won in the lottery and bought for himself hectares of an estate identified as Talisay. There, he built a school and a clinic. Since Dapitan was a remote island and since Rizal was a Europe-trained ophthalmologist, villagers trusted him to cure even diseases not related to his specialization. In his book, however, Ocampo wrote that in June 21, 1896, na nais ni Valenzuela ipatingin ang kalagayan ni Raimundo kaya't tumungo siya sa Dapitan upang makausap si Rizal. Rizal examined the eyes of Raimundo and declared that they were beyond cure. Nevertheless, he prescribed 3 grams of potassium iodide in 100 grams of distilled water, 1 spoonful of it to be taken every morning. Ocampo, in trying to determine the correctness of the prescription, consulted an eye, ear, nose, throat specialist who disclosed that the prescription was a diuretic. Dito nagsimula ang pagkukwestiyon sa galing ni Rizal bilang isang doktor. The unfortunate result of this is a risk toward alienation. With Rizal, in fact, many had fallen into this danger, with some who have even dubbed him a divinity, shooting him off to high heavens as a demigod. In the end, Rizal has become too good to the common people as well as their ideals. Chika Chika! Christina Aquino for the closer look on the more human side of Dr. Jose Rizal.
Good afternoon. Now for our weather update. At 3 p.m. today, the low pressure area or LPA was estimated based on all available data at 180 km east-northeast of Hinatuan, Surigao del Sur. It is embedded along the Tropical Convergence Zone or ITZZ affecting Visayas and Mindanao. Visayas and Mindanao, Mimaropa, Bicol regions and Quezon Province will have cloudy skies with scattered rain showers and thunderstorms due to the LPA and the Tropical Convergence Zone. The northeasterly surface wind flow, meanwhile, will bring cloudy skies and rain showers to Cagayan Valley, Apayao, Kalinga, Ifugao, Mountain Province, and Aurora, and partly cloudy to cloudy skies with isolated light rains in Ilocos Region, Abra, and Benguet. Metro Manila and the rest of Luzon will experience partly cloudy to cloudy skies with isolated rain showers due to localized thunderstorms according to Pag-asa. In Metro Manila, the temperature will reach 32 degrees Celsius to 25 degrees Celsius, Baguio City, 24 degrees Celsius to 16 degrees Celsius, Legazpi City, 27 degrees Celsius to 23 degrees Celsius, Metro Cebu, 29 degrees Celsius to 24 degrees Celsius, Metro Davao, 31 degrees Celsius to 25 degrees Celsius. So everyone, don't leave home without umbrella. This is Mary Cris Lariosa. Always remember to be alert in our surroundings. Back to you, John Ray.
Thank you, Mary Cris Lariosa. Accustomed to share the merry season with family, friends, and relatives, the 1896 Christmas was indeed Rizal's saddest. Confined in a dark, gloomy cell, Rizal was in despair and had no idea of what his fate may be. For further information, here are reporter Mark Pasagi in Rizal Trial.
Okay, salamat. Nandito po tayo ngayon para magbigay ng konting kalaman patungkol sa pangyayari sa Trials of Rizal. Kung babalikan natin, noong 1896, iba ang naging Pasko ni Rizal because he was confined in dark room and have no idea of what his fate may be. Na masabi naman natin na ibang-iba talaga sa Christmas na usually ginagawa ni Rizal na ipinagdiriwang niya kasama ang pamilya at mga kaibigan niya. Kinabukasan, Disyembre 26, ginanap ang trial sa Cuartel de España, a court with 7 military officers na pinangunahan ni Lieutenant Jose Tugueres Arjona at 6 na officer. Sinasabi na yung hearing daw was a moro-moro or planned bago daw malaman ni Rizal yung judgment sa kanya. It was already been prejudged at di katulad ng iba, di pwedeng malaman ni Rizal kung sino ang naging witness laban sa kanya. Habang nasa trial, Attorney Alcocer sinasabi paulit-ulit ang mga charges to Rizal, which is the rebellion, sedition, and illegal association na ang pinalidad daw ng unang dalawa ay life imprisonment to death at yung panghuli ay charges of 325 to 3,250 pesetas. Pagkatapos, sinabi naman ni Lieutenant Avial de Andrade yung speech niya tungkol sa pagdepensa kay Rizal at sinabi din ni Rizal yung mga sinulat niyang 12 depensa para sa akusasyon sa kanya na isinulat niya pa sa cell niya sa Fort Santiago na makikita natin sa aking likuran. At magbibigay ko ng isa na para sa akin ay mahalaga sa mga depensa ni Rizal. Sinabi niya dito na if he was guilty daw, he should have left the country while in exile. He shouldn't have built a home, bought a parcel of land, or established a hospital in Dapitan. Ngunit sa kabila ng depensang ito, yung korte hindi pa rin naniwala sa mga sinabi ni Rizal at sinintensyahan siya na barilin sa musketry until death at 7 o'clock in the morning of December 30, 1896 sa Bagong Bayan na kinumpirma ito pagkalipas ng 2 araw. Gobernador General Palavieja signed the court's decision and ordered Rizal execution. Sa kabuuan, masabi ko na malupit talaga ang sinapit ni Rizal kasi against talaga sa kanya ang korte at determinado upang mahatulan siya ng kamatayan. And again, it is me, Mark Pasagi, nagbigay ng kaalaman patungkol sa Trials of Rizal. Salamat.
Thank you, Mark Pasagi. The courts of justice in the Philippines during Rizal time were notoriously corrupt. Barely there were courts of justice as far as Filipinos concerned. Kindly tell us further information, Karen Kaalim, about Rizal and the justice system.
The Court of Justice in the Philippines declined to pardon Rizal's case.
They eliminate Governor Blanco to be replaced by Palavia as Governor General. The chance of Rizal was not considered to prove his innocent. A brief possibility for Close to be acquitted. Justice never been served as the Supreme Court ordered the execution of Rizal.
They say the worst kind of murder is murder by the government. The worst kind of injustice is injustice by the judiciary. This is Karen Khalid reporting.
Thank you, Karen Kaalim. While awaiting in trial in 1896, Rizal wrote a manifesto that expressed his disapproval of the armed revolution against Spain. He cleared his name, which he said was being used by someone revolutionaries to expose certain ideals. Here a report, Kimberly Opsonory, kindly tell us more about this event.
Ang manifesto ni Rizal ng isang Algunos Filipino. Manifesto sa ilang mga Pilipino na nakasulat noong Desyembre 15, 1876 habang nakabilanggo sa Fort Santiago ay isang kamanghang-manghang peraso sa maraming pananatiling tala at mga titik. 5 principles were included in the manifesto, which attempted to persuade Filipinos to put an end to the uprising. First, he exonerated himself by stating that he was never a participant in the revolution and that his name was only used to entice Filipinos to join it. Second, He was contacted about a planned revolution, but he advised the culprits to call it off. Third, by volunteering his skills to the people, he hoped to put an end to the insurrection. Fourth, he denounced the revolution as absurd and barbaric. Fifth, uprisings were not an option at that time, and reform should be initiated by the authorities rather than citizens. He made it apparent that people's education has the power to bring about social transformation. Katwiran ni Rizal ay isa nakasaad sa nanulimitang here at el filibusterismo na ipiniliwanag sa manifesto. Bagaman hinamak ni Rizal ang mga mapang-abusong kasanayan sa mga praile at mga kolonyal na pamahalaan, hindi siya nagtaguyod para sa isang bigla at magulong diskarte sa kalayaan. Naniniwala siya na ang paliwanag ng mga Pilipino ay kritikal. Ang manifesto sa kasamang palad ay hindi kailanman ginawang pampubliko. Ito ay hindi sapat upang hikayatin ang mga nagkaakusa ng kanyang kawalang kasalanan at siya ay napawalang sala. Rizal knew his life was coming to an end, but he was content in the knowledge that he had stood up for his belief and that the seed he had sowed would grow fruit in the heroes who would come after him. Rizal wanted us to understand that we can change and improve ourselves through a circumspect understanding of life's benefits and pitfalls, rather than through flaring emotions and disregard for consequences. Rizal is the greatest Filipino of all time, as he always been. A manifesto is a public statement of the issuer's aim, motives, or opinions, whether it's an individual, organization, a political party, or the government. This is Kimberly Obsonar in Rizal Issues a Manifesto.
Thank you, Kimberly Oxonor. The Last Day of Jose Rizal, a timeline of his last arrest, incarceration, execution, and the journey of his remain. For further information, William Macarion is with us.
Thank you, John Ray. The Last Day of Jose Rizal, a timeline of his last arrest, incarceration, execution, and the journey of his remains. This brief timeline was prepared by a historian to the commemoration of the centenary of the transfer of Jose Rizal's remains to its present burial site at the Rizal Park. At 6 October 1896 at 3 a.m., on his fourth day of being held in his cabin at the MV Isla de Panay, docked at Barcelona, Spain, on his way to Cuba, Rizal was brought to Montjuic prison in Barcelona, Spain. On the same day at 6 p.m., board the Colon, Rizal left Barcelona for Manila. November 3rd, Rizal was brought to Fort Santiago with the other patriots, including his brother Pasiano, were being tortured to implicate him. November 20, preliminary investigation with Rizal appearing before Judge Advocate Colonel Francisco Olive, and the investigation lasted for 5 days. 8 December, Rizal chose the brother of his friend, Lieutenant Luis Tavel de Andrade, to become his trial lawyer. 11 December, Rizal was read the charges against him. Principal organizer and the living soul of the Filipino insurrection, founder of societies, periodicals, and books dedicated to fomenting and propagating the ideas of rebellion. December 25th, Rizal's saddest Christmas, away from his family and friends. 26th December, trials of Rizal began at the Cuartel de España. The court initially secretly unanimously voted for guilty verdict with the penalty of death before a firing squad. December 28, Governor General Camilo G. de Rolajeva signed the death verdict. On 29 December, Rizal was read his verdict to be shot at the next day. 29 December at 12 to 3 p.m., Rizal probably worked his last poem of the 14 stanzas in a small paper and hid it inside the alcohol stove. The untitled poem was later known as Mi Ultima Adios, or in English, My Last Farewell, pairing the revolutions giving their lives without doubt, without gloom. On 4 p.m., Rizal's mother Teodora Alonso, Rizal's sister Trinidad visited him. Rizal then whispered, in English, there is something inside, pointing to the alcohol stove. 29 December, 8 p.m., Rizal's Last Supper, where he informed Captain Don Mayer that he already forgave those who condemned him. 30th December at 5 a.m., teary-eyed Josephine Bracken and Josefa Rizal came. Josephine Bracken and Jose Rizal embraced the last time. At 6:30 a.m., Death March to Bagong Bayan begins. At 7:03 a.m., Peparin Amputen, Rizal shouted, Consumatum est. It is done. Likod. With the captain shouting Fuego, shots rang out of 8 Indio soldiers. Viva España, muerta a los traidores, the last words of the 8th.
Thank you, William Macayeron. Spain was unwilling to reform its colonial government, and armed rebellion broke out in 1896. Rizal, who had advocated reform but not in revolution, was shot for sedition on December 30, 1896. His martyrdom fueled the revolution led by the young General Emilio Aguinaldo. Here our report, Hannah Ligutan, kindly tell us the detail about this incident.
December 30, 1896, when Rizal was sentenced to death for fermenting rebellion. The Spaniards ordered Filipino soldiers to shoot Jose Rizal. As you can see, Filipino soldiers were in front of the line while the Spaniards are in the back so that they can shoot the Filipino soldiers if they will disobey the order. After Rizal was shot, one soldier was given an order to shoot Rizal at a close range or Kerry-Vesha. On December 1896, Jose Rizal was killed alive, but despite all of this, Bonifacio was not discouraged, but instead, there are twice or more Filipinos that is joining the Katipunan, where the rebellion was powerful. Rizal's death made the Filipinos united and filled with new determination. This is Hannah Ligutan for Rizal's execution and revolution.
Thank you, Hannah Ligutan. December 30, 2013 marks the centennial of the Rizal Monument, which was built as the tomb and memorial to C.P. Rizal and has since then served as the de facto symbol of our nationhood. For further information, here our reporter Marjorie Bugao kindly tell us about this information.
Rizal's burial. Rizal was executed by a firing squad on December 30, 1896, but he was only given a proper burial on December 30, 1912. After the Spaniards were defeated and Americans took over the country, Rizal's burial at first his body was secretly buried at the Old Paco Cemetery. After Rizal's execution at Bagong Bayan on December 30, ay hindi binigay ng otoridad ang bangkay niya sa kanyang pamilya. Sa kabila ng pakikiusap ng kanaina na si Doña Teodora Alonso, agad namang naghanap ng mga bagong hukay ng mga libingan ng mga kapatid ni Rizal na si Narcesa sa Paang Bundok o North Cemetery, kung saan ibinili ni Rizal na maglibing ngunit nabaligtaan niya na mayroong bagong hukay sa nilibingan sa hindi ginagamit na sementeryo o ang Paco. Noong araw daw na iyon, binayaran niya ang mga bantay nito at ipinalagay ang panandang marmol ng kanyang kabaligtaran na initials RPG upang hindi nakawin ang bangkay o hindi ilipat ng mga Espanyol. Namasakop ng Amerikano ang Maynila matapos ang Battle ng Maynila noong Agosto 1898, hinukay na muli ang bangkay ni Rizal at doon napatunayan na inilibing siya ng walang dangal. On August 17, 1898, Rizal's remains were exhumed and Narcisa brought to Rizal's family house in Binondo. At hinugasan niya ang mga buto at inilagay sa ivory that was designed by Romulo Teodoro de Jesus at doon na malaya ang mga labi ni Rizal hanggang 1912. Ang ina ni Rizal, Kung maibigan ay papakita pa sa mga bisita ang bungo ng anak. On December 29, 1912, mula sa Calle Estrada sa Binondo, Manila, ipinosisyon ng mga Mason at ang mga kalye Cross ni Rizal or Knights of Rizal patungong Intramuros kung saan buong gabi itong binantayan. Kinaumagahan sa isang solemn procession na kagbay sa huling pagkakataon ang mga labi ni Rizal. On December 30, 1912, a solemn ceremony was held to finally bury the remains in the base of the monument dedicated in memory of Rizal. Ngunit hindi lahat ng buto ni Rizal ay nailibing doon. May isang buto sa galugod ni Rizal ang hindi isinama at ginawang souvenir sapagkat ito ang bahaging tinamaan ng bala ng barilin si Rizal sa Bagong Bayan. Hanggang ngayon ay makikita itong naka-exhibit sa museo ng Fort Santiago.
An open letter to Dr. Josepe Rizal. I am writing with full of gratitude for all you have done for us. The Filipinos are thanking you for all that you have done for our country. As you are one in a million, the best person the Philippines ever had. As your life became a subject of study, the Filipinos are aware that you are an author, poet, ophthalmologist, and journalist. You're also a sculptor, farmer, and educator. It is not a surprise for us to know that you were excellent in your class and one that can be an inspiration to other people. You had it all, yet you decided to become the voice of slaved Filipinos and rose with bravery to resist the oppressors of the country with willingness to pay the price, which you heartily paid. Your act was an example that exemplifies the modest spark of patriotism that should be buried in the heart of every Filipino. The decision to take action in the face of whatever societal issues is the thin line that divides heroes from the rest. The heartfelt gratitude for writing Noli Me Tangere and El Filibusterismo is still in the hearts and minds of every Filipino. Those books became a kickstart to freedom, which our country longed for, and aided the sense of Filipino nationalism. Thank you for willingly laying down your life without hesitations. You have sacrificed much time learning and gaining knowledge for the sake of all the Filipinos which you knew not. You were fully aware that knowing too much in your time is a big threat to Spanish government and will prior lead to execution. But it doesn't stop you from doing what you thought was right. Inspire us to unleash our inner hero by being the best version of ourselves as we struggle to restore integrity to our institution in these modern days. I hope we don't have to die like the heroes of our time to accomplish these things, because we Filipinos are going to live our life to the fullest. Thanks to you.
That's all for today's news. News with no bias. This has been your anchor, Christina Rixi Paula.
News with no exemption. And this is Johnny Balais.
This is the trial and the execution.